life. The rich have always been the rich. They've never struggled. They've never been through anything. They're born rich. They stay rich. I'm not feeling sorry for them. I'm not going to be upset with them. All right, well, what about you think about it this way? Think about you. Now, I'm not saying that you're poor, but I'm definitely saying that you're not rich. If you were listening to this video and you're rich, then you've made some really poor life decisions. Now, again, I'm not saying that you're poor, but this is you. This is an exaggeration of you. How about that? But nonetheless, you're not rich right now. But wouldn't you like to do better? Wouldn't you like to be successful? Wouldn't you like to work your way up to middle class? And then eventually, wouldn't you like to be the boss? Wouldn't you want to be rich? Of course. Some people weren't always rich. Some people work their way up. That's how the system goes. So when you constantly beat up on the rich and the wealthy and the bankers and the business owners, remember that now I'm not going to say all of them or many of them. If you look at the data, and Howard Zinn says, now you got to be careful with some of the income data, but Howard Zinn in his book says that only 10% of the wealthy during this time, only 10% of the robber barons did the Horatio Alger rags to riches plan. He says that 90% of the rich were already rich. That's fine. But still, 10% of the people work their way up. And hopefully you are one of those 10%. And it might be even different today. You have to be careful with income stats. You may be rich one year and not rich the other. It's very difficult to really get a good picture because people are always moving in and out of income brackets. It's the way it is. We like to think of the rich as rich, but sometimes you have a really good year. Sometimes you don't have really good years. It's complicated. But the point I'm trying to get at is, don't just hate this guy. Don't have this unfair bias towards him. If you think of him as somebody who once was poor that worked their way up, you might be a little bit more compassionate and have more sympathy, and then you can understand some of these issues better. Because in the end, we're still talking about inflation. This guy may have worked his way through studying, he worked hard, and he got himself to the top. So just humor me for a little bit and think of the wealthy. Think of the rappers. I know we look at the rappers and we look at athletes. A lot of the NBA stars were not born rich. They worked their way up. Now they make millions of dollars. A lot of the rappers and musicians in this country were not born rich. They have worked their way up, and it was through work, hard work, and studying. Oh, they didn't do any homework. Well, they did homework in other ways. LeBron James studied the game. Rappers studied the game, right? Now, I'm saying all this so that you can visualize, all right, maybe the wealthy aren't so bad. Why is he always frowning, Mr. Dietrich? Give him a smile. Let me put a smile on your face. All right, so the joker, and I've made him worse. They've worked. Imagine this is you. This is you right here, all right? This is you. You're this guy. Let me put some shades on you. You're so cool, you got to wear shades, red shades. All right, you've worked your whole life to become wealthy. All right, are you visualizing this? Are you in this moment? Are you with me? You've watched all the social studies games.us videos. You've passed all the tests. You went to college or you didn't go to college. You just invested in the right thing and you've made your way to the top. And now you got the bucks. Then all of a sudden one day, the government steps in and the government decides, you know what we going to do? We're going to print a bunch of money because we think it'll stimulate the economy and we're going to help out the middle class. We're going to help those low-income individuals because there's not enough money in circulation. If we print more money, people can spend more. It's going to create more jobs and it's going to help the economy. And hey, that sounds awesome. But you know what? The economy is fine. Help out the economy. But what about me? Because when the government prints this money, the supply of money goes up. And what happens then to the value or the price of that money? It goes down. And so the millions of dollars that you have in your bank account that you worked your whole life to accumulate, that you worked your whole life to save up, just like that, the snap of a finger, with the stroke of a pen, the government decides we need to print more money. And all of a sudden, your money just vanishes. Now, it doesn't literally vanish. Again, your $100 still says $100 on it. But we know that when you increase supply, the price goes down. And so when the government does this, when the government decides we're going to back money with gold and silver, supply goes up, the value of it goes down. That still says $100, but we know that it's not worth what it used to do. And typically we see that in the price of goods just cost more. You can no longer buy the same things that you used to be able to buy with your money. All this that you worked your whole life for is gone because the government made a decision to print more money. What do you think now? Do you feel a little bit more sympathy for the bankers? Do you kind of understand why they want to stick to a gold standard? At least with a gold standard, there are rules. And the government cannot just pick winners and losers and change overnight what has happened. Imagine working your whole life and then the government says, we're going to print more money. But I worked my whole life to earn that money. And now you're going to make that money worth less. That is not fair because you want to help someone else in the economy. Because you think somebody else is struggling. You are going to bail them out for whatever reason. Maybe they really are struggling, or maybe they made a lot of bad decisions. Maybe they shouldn't be bailed out. But either way, you are 100% harming me. This is the thing we run into in social studies all the time. There rarely is a right answer. And this is what we run into in economics. Economics is known as the dismal science. As Thomas Sowell said, there are no solutions. There are only trade-offs. There are no solutions, there are only trade-offs, meaning if you do one thing, something else is going to happen. You can help one person, but you're going to hurt the other person. In your life, you can choose tonight to study, or you can go hang out with your friends, but you can't do them both. If you hang out with your friends, you're going to fail your test tomorrow. And if you study, you'll do well on the test, but you'll have no friends. There are no solutions in economics, only trade-offs. And the same thing in social studies. Should the government print more money? Well, it depends. You can print more money and help some people out, but you're going to hurt some people. And if you don't print money, you're going to help some people out, and you're going to hurt other people. And that's, should we go to war or not go to war? Well, if we go to war, we can stop these guys from doing bad things. But our government is going to spend all of our money, and people are going to die. There are no solutions, only trade-offs. 1/3 of your money gone. All right, let's do another example because I'm going to continue to hammer away at this until you understand what inflation is. It is definitely a big part of your life, not so much in the gold-silver debate, although that is a period of life that has, again, resurfaced and will continue throughout the life. But let's do it this way. We're going to reverse it. So they loan money, you pay it back, 300 is 300, no big deal. Well, what about this? I loan you $100, and then instead of inflation, we have deflation. We shrink the money supply. Supply has gone down, and the actual value of that money has gone up. So $300 is actually $600. That sounds awesome. You just made more. No, actually, we didn't make more money. There's less dollar bills now. Those less dollar bills, because it's rare, are actually worth more. The $100 is actually a $100 bill now buys $200. It doesn't say 200 on it, but what happens, we talk about inflation, the price of goods go up. Well, the price of goods will drop. If we deflate the economy, you can get a soda for 10 cents. You can get a candy bar for 25 cents. The price of goods will drop because money is rare. There's less money to go around. There isn't any money to buy anything. And so if I run a store and I want to sell because I know no one has any money, I've got to lower my prices. That's deflation. That sounds good, but the problem is a lot of people just don't have money at all. So not only do you have to pay that back, but you actually have to pay back $600. It's a bit of an exaggeration, but I'm trying to give you the point that it's actually good for the banks. This bank specifically, when you have deflation. Now, if you have extreme deflation, what typically happens is this guy just simply doesn't have any money whatsoever. No money, because the money supply is gone. So he actually doesn't pay the bank back at all. And the bank doesn't get paid back. And if the bank doesn't get money, then the bank shuts down. So extreme deflation is bad. A normal rate of deflation is actually pretty good for the bank because their money becomes worth more. And like we said before, if you have a $100,000 mortgage, When there's inflation, we print a bunch of money. If there's a bunch of money, it's easy to pay that 100,000 back. But if there's deflation and there's no money, it becomes very difficult to pay back your $100,000 mortgage, because basically your $100,000 mortgage now turned into a $300,000 mortgage because of deflation. You can't pay the money back. You can't pay back your loan, and so you lose your house. This is what happened during the Great Depression. There was deflation. They did not control the money supply correctly. Do not listen to the other social studies lessons where you say it was those greedy bankers or it was those greedy Wall Street types. It was all greedy people, and that's what caused the Great Depression. The government saved us with the New Deal. Wrong. The government created the Great Depression by not printing money. These are facts. You can look at the evidence. It is there for whatever reason. No one else teaches it to you. They teach you lies to push a different narrative to make you love government. I love government. Wrong. Do not love government. Government created the problem through deflation. And when there's no money, you don't have money. And when you have money, you can't pay them back. If you can't pay them back, eventually they will go under as well. Hopefully some of this is sunk in and it's making some sense. I know it's crazy. And so it's kind of good when the value is maintained at a decent level. When we don't devalue it too much, then the bank wins and you lose. But if they devalue it way too much, not only do you lose, but they will lose as well. So if we go back to this time period of the populace, around the turn of the century, we're talking about 1880 into 1900. The banks clearly wanted to stick to the system they had because they knew if we change over to this system, their money in their bank is going to go down. The money that they've earned to save, the money of their investors, we know that the value will drop. They don't want that. The people are desperate for cash. They're desperate. And so we need to base our monetary policy on not just gold, but also silver that will increase the money supply. We'll spend it, and that'll create jobs. And then that'll increase spending more. That's supposed to say spending, and it'll create even more jobs. Remember, you can't just hammer the gas, which this would be the gas, and you can't just hammer the brake, which this would be the brake. You've got to be in between. Today, it's much easier to be in between because our currency is a fiat currency. Let it become. Our money is worth money. Our money has value because the government says it is, period. And it's much easier now for the government to get on the gas and to get on the brake. And that would make you sound like, oh, well, everything's Gucci. Well, it's not. This actually may be better because at least when you have this, the government has very little power to mess with the money. Adding the silver situation again is giving government power to mess with the money. And that can be good to print more money, but it also can be bad because they can destroy all of your savings. Today we have a fiat currency, and so the government can pretty much do whichever it wants. It's a lot of power to manipulate currency. So the brake would be gold. Silver is the gas. Which do you think the government decided to do in 1880, 1900? Did the government decide, you know what? Populace, middle class, farmers, poor, unemployed, the protesters, Coxey's army protesting, we side with you? Or did the government say, we're going to stick with our pals, the elite, the elite, the elite? Do we help them out? Do we help out the rich? Do we help out the robber barons? Do we help out the railroads? Well, guess what? Most cases, the government is the rich. They are the railroads. They are the robber barons. So, of course, they're going to side with, let's stick to the gold policy. Ding, 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 ding. And as we close, here's our battle. William Jennings Bryan, WJV, ran for president 3 times. He loses every single time versus Mr. McKinley, who was a gold bug. They were in favor of the gold. They were in favor of silver. This was obviously the populists. This was their main thing. Well, technically, I think it's Democrats, but the populists were a part of this major push. And McKinley, like I mentioned, loses 3 times. Or not McKinley. Bryant loses 3 times. McKinley wins, but McKinley is quickly assassinated. I shouldn't laugh. I'm sorry. Assassinated by an anarchist. Anarchy! And, well, that's the end of his story. This is an interesting thing of note. You can see here's your electoral vote, and McKinley crushes William Jennings Bryan. But if you look closer, the popular vote is actually very close. People still complain today about the stupid electoral college. We should just go with the popular vote. And they're acting like this is a thing, a new thing. It's been this way since 1896. It's survived this long. People are waking up today like, man, the electoral college is stupid. It's been like this forever. This is not the first time where the popular vote either favored the guy that lost or it was very close. It's about the electoral college. Now, I mean, I don't mind if you want to argue against it. That's fine. That's your thing. But let's not pretend that this is new. This is not new. This idea of the popular vote being close or actually going with the winner. 51%, 47%. Electoral college ain't even close. All right, I am not even going to sit here and try to talk about gold versus silver. We went on for probably an hour. It's taken you probably 3 days to watch this, and that's okay. That's okay. Hopefully you've got a little idea about what happens when the supply of money goes up and what happens when the supply of money goes down.